Perfect.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation about love in business, doing business with an open heart. Today, I will be contemplating love and business concepts with Tibe. I was introduced to Tibe almost, I think, a couple months ago. Time really flies. It was towards the end of last year. One of my business school friends introduced us through a comment saying that, hey, you both share a common interest in bringing more of heartful, loveful explorations into business. And maybe you see some value in connecting to each other and exploring what love in business means together. After that, we had a brief follow up conversation with Tibe where I was so inspired by her lens, her definition, and definitely we have some complementary point of views. And our introduction was just us getting to know each other and telling a little bit more about how we would like to integrate love back to business. And this is our second time together. While we will be learning together, we would like to invite you to as well in the form of questions and contemplations to join our live conversation. So welcome, Tibe. So I would like to actually hand it over to you to maybe share a little bit more about where the inspiration is coming for you and how did you come up with this concept of love as a KPI, and maybe tell a little bit more about what love means for you, first of all, and
Yeah,
how did you come up with the idea of the newsletter and where the concept is coming from?
awesome. Well, I'm glad to. Thank you so much, Dork. We, the first conversation that we had was just like so much alignment. And I think when you go out in the world and you start to share about a concept like love as a KPI, it sometimes feels like you're speaking into sort of the open space. And so when you meet someone who has a similar energy and similar mind, you're like, there's more of us. So I am just glad to be able to share this space with you and just sort of share what's on our mind. So for me, love is a KPI, right? So KPI because I know I tend to do a lot of acronyms, it stands for Key Performance Indicator. And what the concept basically asks is, well, if we have, as organizations, we all have key performance indicators. Honestly, as individuals, we have key performance indicators. We know the things that define what made a good day, what made a good year. From a business perspective, whether it's sales or savings, we all have these things that we know. This is how we know we're successful.
Yeah.
And love as a KPI is built on a premise that says if we're going to measure two things. One is if we're going to measure the things that matter to us, should we not also measure how we're leaving people as a result of their interaction with our business? And I think two, the second, which is the second side of the same coin, is it built on the idea that, hey, if businesses, it's a conviction that I have, if organizations or businesses are primarily driven, not solely driven, because there are other things that need to drive organizations, but if the primary driver is love for people, meaning we are
Yes.
doing this as a way to love people. And those people could be employees, they could be customers, they could be shareholders, they could be community members, they could even be suppliers. If that's the primary goal, that actually will yield even greater returns from a financial, operational, brand, and strategic standpoint, while not also sacrificing people at the wake. It came to me, I'll be honest, it's a culmination of many, many years of work experience. And so having roles in different functions, but also always having a people focus. It's come
Yeah.
through me through observation, seeing just real time the impact that whether someone is an employee or a customer, the impact that a business can have on someone's sense of self-esteem, the impact that a business could have on someone's sense of self, on their confidence and what they take home to their families, and also some research. So that's the short, long answer of how it's come. I will be honest, it took me a little bit of time to really sum up the courage to start sharing these things more publicly because it sounds like, it doesn't sound very mainstream, but I'm very glad I did.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And actually, I would like to maybe emphasize why it's really important to talk about these concepts loud and publicly. Because, like you said, I think there are so much terminologies that we talk around love, like, hey, engagement, loyalty, commitment, dedication. But it sometimes feels like love and business are two concepts that doesn't belong together.
Yeah.
And we're even afraid that if we really bring that so-called soft love dimension into business, it's just gonna mess things up and it's not going to be aligned with this seriousness of business where we are supposed to
Yeah.
create value and we are
Yeah.
supposed to really measure everything. To me, it's just another opportunity maybe to reframe things in a different way. And my journey is actually very similar to yours too. This concept of love and bringing more love to business is also another extension of my professional life experience, but also my personal growth in life. And when I was thinking and talking about like, why do we do business in the first place? Sometimes, as professionals, like I know you are still a leader in the corporate world. I recently transitioned out of the corporate world into my own solopreneur journey, but I've been operating in the space over the last 20 years. When you are in the game, you don't really step back and really think about those big questions like, what does business stand for in the first place? Like, why do we as human beings, first of all, do business? And when I literally stopped and asked this question, and as a part of my contemplation, I was even thinking about my business education. Like, I've gone through an MBA, proper Masters of Business Administration, but I don't even recall whether we asked this question. I think this was like an assumption. If you're in the school, you already know that what business stands for is very clear to you. But one of the clearest definitions that I was able to find when I asked this question was actually coming from another business professor, Charles Handy. It was in one of my posts, but if I can pull it up, he was saying that the purpose of business is not to only make a profit, full stop. It's to make a profit so that the business can do something more or better. So if you really look into the definition of business as a way of us collectively as human beings coming
Mm.
together around a common vision, around a common dedication towards something that we love and see more, would like to see more in the world, then the definition of business is literally centered around that common concept of something that we love and we would like to see more in the world, and us collectively as human beings coming around a common vision, purpose to bring that vision to life. And if we
Mm.
see it this way, to me, it is actually at the center of business because its existence, its why, is coming from that inner human drive of making some impact in the world, making an impact with other individuals collectively. Maybe because of that, I would like to take a moment to describe my definition to complement yours as well, because mine is also very much aligned with that communal spirit that you are trying to bring by introducing love as a KPI. When I come up with the concept, my intention was to bring that spirit back to business as well. So it's not only a numbers name. It's not only making profit for the sake of making profit. It's making a profit to Charles Handy's definition. So we can survive similar to human beings eating food. So we can bring more of our visions into the world. So we have profit to bring back more value to the world. So when I was thinking and talking about this essence, an acronym opened in my heart. Like love to me means living organizations or organisms valuing all of existence. And when I look into that, there's vitality in that concept. There is this flourishing concept. There's an acknowledgement that it's a living organism responding to the context. So it's not really like a rigid thing that you can fix and predict over the next 20 years. It's an organism that brings different humans together around a common vision. And to me, another important thing that's innately in the definition of love is that value part, because love values. Love sees you as you are, and love accepts you as you are. And the last part is really valuing existence. Existence. What does existence mean? It's not only some profits, some numeric numbers that's going to make us alive. It's also honoring every living being, including the customers that we serve, including the communities that we create, including our employees, including the planet that we operate in, including nature, that really allows us to bring most of the value that we create in the form of businesses today. So my definition is also very much aligned with yours in its essence, because it's this collective human soul coming together for a common vision. And it's a lot more relational in its essence, not only transactional, but relational for a bigger purpose that brings all of our faculties into world. And maybe last thing before handing over to you so you can share more reflections on your side is really, I feel like the way that we operate in business is very limited in its scope because we are only doing business with our minds. What if we put all of our faculties into the creation of beautiful services, beautiful products, not only our minds, but also our hearts? Like, for example, another thing that's so dear to my heart is really bringing that artistic side of human beings back to business. Like when we think about two personas, like a business person, serious, dressed up very seriously in the suits, and the artist is another wild, crazy person. But we have that wild, crazy person in all of us. And if we are not bringing that wild, crazy essence, that heart driven ambition into the business world too, I also feel like we are doing disservice into our innovation potential because we can only create more Me Too products if we only do business with our limited mindset. So, what if we combine our minds, our hearts, and bring more of that openness into business to be able to do maybe bolder, bigger, and more original things? What do you think? Any reflections from your side?
Several reflections. There's a quote that I think about a lot, and I think of that Miles Monroe, and he says, when the purpose of something is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so
Oh,
when the purpose of business is not known, when the purpose of why am I in this job or why am I even a customer of this thing is not known, it's more likely than not that people make up their own reasons and their own purposes. When you were talking, I basically saw a picture, really like a vision, like a picture of people engaging in business practices, not focused on themselves and what they're going to gain out of it, focused on one another, and then focused on
yes,
other people outside of it. So I think in my experience and even how I've thought about it and brought how the thoughts being developed, love is always about another person, right?
yes,
And of course you benefit from it, but it's always thinking about the other person. And so imagine, environments where people come together, to really like, I love the word relational that you said. It's
yes,
really a relational, right? And the idea of fiefdoms or camps or this team versus that team, it's just a different mindset and a different paradigm. Another thing I love to reflect on is the saying that what you behold, you become. So what you focus
yes,
on impacts your personality, impacts who you're becoming, right? And so the idea that whether it's within an organization or broader, that people are beholding or looking at a vision or a reason for business that's more relational will start
yes,
to undoubtedly change how they think about business. What we measure, right, changes. How we define success changes. When you have a meeting, how you even start a meeting changes. And I think that's the opportunity, with, the work that we're all collectively doing on this notion of bringing this topic of love to business. The truth is, I believe that many of the most important things still are hidden in plain sight. Can you hear me still? You can hear me,
yes,
right?
yes, I can.
Many of the most important things are hidden in plain sight, meaning they're very obvious, almost blindingly obvious. And what you said also made me think about truly, if we think about at its essence, like what is the purpose of business? Like why would you choose? Because most if I think about it, right, and even in the most capitalist structure, you're creating something with the hope of adding value to someone else, right? You're
Yes,
creating headphones hoping that you would value them and I could deliver them to you. The intention is purely about people, right? Of
yes,
course, then we add a lot of things and we make it more complicated, but the whole idea of a business is, hey, I want to give you the best cupcake so you can always keep coming back. And when you don't have that clear intention of love as the driver, right,
yes,
it starts to get in the way of what it should be, which is, I have a gift of making cupcakes. I want you to have these cupcakes. Let me do
yes,
my best to give you the best cupcakes. And in return, you're giving me something. Imagine if the goal was always really to honor you as a customer and to honor my team members. And then with those resources I get, I'm always thinking about what more value can I add to the world. The thing is, this is not just a good idea. I
Yes,
think it's the blindingly obvious purpose of business, but it's gotten so muddled in
it
just different
is.
perspectives and different thinkings, but there is a desire, I think, for us to go back to that core.
I hope
Yeah,
so. And we have to go back.
yeah,
We have to
yeah,
go back. We see so many signals that things are not working right. And the right way to go back is literally, once again, connecting back to our whys. Why
yeah.
are we in this together? And I think you highlighted another important thing that I would like to emphasize with another quote. Nietzsche says, if you have a strong why, you can always figure out how. To me, that's also another invitation for bringing more love, because love is that why behind why as human beings we come together to create more value, to create more of the things that we love and believe in. And what we are actually sharing in the form of commitment to business is a lot as human beings. Like we only have outside of sleep like 16 hours, and out of that like half of that time is really dedicated to this. It's like 1/3 of human life. It's a significant chunk of our human potential. So it's not really like a tiny little small piece in today's world.
That's right.
Work literally sits at the center of our meaning in life as human beings, as employees too. Like if you are not really loving what you do, and if you are not really putting your heart and all of your faculties into what you do, you are missing so many things as a human being in your potential. But the same is true from a business side. When I always link this back to me, like love is innately linked to innovation, which is my passion,
Mm-hmm.
which is what my background is. To me, the true innovation can only come from a safe and secure, nourishing love essence, because love enables you to think differently in a loving context where people feel safe, where people feel accepted, where people feel seen with their differences. That can create so much harmony where we see our differences, respect our differences, build on top of each other's differences, and create something unique and beautiful that didn't exist before. So, from a business side, too, like integrating love is literally to me the only way that you can succeed over the longer term, by creating unique things that reflects the soul of your company, that reflects the culture of your company. And to me, that integrity is love. If you put love at the center, not really like ticking the box or like a slide in an annual presentation saying that, hey, this is our culture or this is what we stand for. But I think as someone who has been in the corporate context too, like if you really ask employees, like, what's this vision and mission? Like, how many of the people really know that vision and mission by heart? If it is just a slight exercise that is present in an executive presentations once a year, but if it's really integrated into how the company culture is coordinated, how the core values, operating principles are integrated, how every decision is taken, then it turns out to be this breathing, living existence that penetrates into all of the teams, and from their employees reflected in the form of their interactions with their customers. And it turns out to be this living existence other than this tick in the box titles and slides, which is, I think, what we see dominantly in the world. And in terms of, I think, this is impact, I would like to link this back to your articulation in your newsletters. And you briefly touched upon this. Love is not this lovey dovey, fluffy, soft feeling. It is actually the essence of business. And if you cannot really see this and make this link, I was just looking into some engagement statistics from Gallup's research, the latest one from 2023. And again, I think these are the closest things that we speak about love in business. It's engagement, it's loyalty. And apparently, 6 out of 10 employees are quitting quietly. And the number one reason for that, and that reason is beyond pay, it's number one, it's related to engagement and culture. And what does that mean? It literally means do I belong? Do I feel like
Yes.
my differences are respected here? Do I feel like the contribution that I make is meaningful? Do I really feel like 1/3 of my daily time that I commit to is
Yeah.
leading into something that makes me feel like I am a decent human being making a contribution with my life? So sometimes we really affiliate things with numerical things and we think that extrinsic value is the only thing that attracts people to business. It's not pay. This is even higher than pay, that internal drive to make a meaning,
Yeah.
to make a significance in life. And if we don't see this, then of course we are going to treat every employee like a part of the machine and it's just going to be a number in the Excel sheet. And then we will see the impact of that on the numerical side in terms of replacement, turnover rates, and stuff like that. So I think it's really important to talk about that linkage of human dimension, why it's really important to really bake love at the center of the culture, at the center of engagement, so that people are seen, so that people are loyal, so that they turn out to be the ambassadors of the love that is generated there, instead of really just being just a replaceable person is, as a number in an Excel sheet.
I don't think we know the full potential of a human being until we love them and see what happens. Very
Yes.
simple example. I go to a place to work out most days, not every day, but most days. And I go there willing to give my best, right? I get tired with some exercises and there are coaches there every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the coaches are created equal, even where I go. There's one particular coach who, or at least a couple of them, who will find me on the bike, stand next to me, point at the number and say, bring this thing down 10%. Tiba, you can do it. I thought I had reached my max, but
Mm-hmm.
having someone seeing me, having
Yes.
someone speaking into me for some
Yes.
reason, from somewhere, I don't know, more comes out of me. When someone has, again, in a room full of 20, 30 people, zones in on you and starts to see things in you, starts to call out your potential, makes you really feel there's some, I don't know this, I cannot speak to exactly what's happening, but the potential of people within an organization, the potential of people as employees, as customers, we don't even yet know, right? And so we're calling things like engagement, but we don't even yet know when we actually have organizations that are driven by love for people and we're training in this way, we're rewarding in this way. How loved are your people feel? We don't even yet know what it means to maximize potential of the people in your organization if we haven't done this, taken this action to become the leaders who love people and the leaders who love our team members who are loved. So I just think there's so much at the table. And what you said is so important. I don't want to gloss over it, because if not business, then what? Where
Yes.
else is the biggest avenue to affect actual societal change? We're
Yes.
literally, I said this, we're literally either employees or customers of something
Yes.
day in, day out.
Yes.
It's almost like a silent but hidden forest. It is the forest, right? It either you're an employee or of a place and you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours there every day of your life. You don't get those hours back. Or you're a customer of Apple, or you're a customer. There's always a way that a business is impacting your day currently. Even the chair I'm sitting on,
Yes.
someone made it and sold it, right? If they made a low quality chair, I wouldn't even be able to fully engage in this conversation. I'd be holding on to the sides, making sure that it may feel like a stretch, but there's no other entity other than the entity of business that impacts people's lives. And so the opportunity to love them is always present. And it's not just a nice to do.
Yes.
It genuinely is not. It's not just, hey, it's a nice thing to do. It's not a feely, oh, I want to, no, my high five. No, it's not that. It's understanding that a lot of, if not all of the outcomes that organizations want, right? What do organizations want? They want employees that stay longer. They want retention. They want employees that not just stay longer, but are productive. They're highly
Bring
productive.
their
They're
best.
engaged.
Yes.
They bring their best. They want to reduce risk. So they want any risk tied to employee behavior like ethics. They want those risks to be managed. They want customers that tell other people to come. They want customers that buy more. Most of these outcomes are driven by human beings making a decision.
Yes.
right? You want a human being as an employee, a human being as a customer, a human being as you in a community. You want community members who are not picket fencing you every week because they disagree with something you said. You want people to take action, to do something, to know something, to be something, to think something, to promote something. It's always people. We put people in boxes, and so it strips away the humanity of people, but it's always
Yes.
people. If
Yes.
we think about, all right, what is our love strategy for the community of blank town because we are building a plant there? How do we love them? What does that look like? What's our love strategy for the sales department? Because really, they're the ones that will take that love to the clients. They're so like,
Yes.
imagine if we thought about what does it mean to love, and then taking it from the department. What does it mean to love Janice? You know,
Yes.
Janice is the admin of the so it if we think about when we've experienced being loved, Doruk, when we've experienced being seen, what it
Yes.
did for us and within us,
Yes.
we know there's something there. So we haven't even scratched the surface in terms of the potential of the people that work with us, work for us, and our customers until we actually explore what it means to love them.
So deep. You articulated a beautiful importance of business, and I would like to maybe share a little bit more reflections from my side because I'm really passionate about imagining business as a collective healing venue where we can do good for the society and we can create healthy cultures where we can really be the role models for individual and collective healing too. I know this is a high vision, but at least as someone who has been always in business, I truly believe that in today's society, in today's world, business is the most powerful institution in the world, especially in America. So, as a part of that system, I cannot really think about business and health of society, health of humanity in two different ways. Like for some of my friends, they were questioning, like, why do you come up with this concept? Like I was historically in a very traditional defined healthcare setting. I think with my own evolution, my definition for healthcare even became even more and more global because my understanding and my systems level thinking broaden in scope. To me, business is actually the right venue, given its scope and impact, to be able to create the large level healing that we can really see in society, in the world. Because, like I said, one third of human beings, we spend our times there. And I would like to actually link it to one of the concepts that you articulated in one of your newsletters. You were asking, what is the feeling that your product or service leaves in the customers? And that triggered a similar kind of question. Like, what is the feeling that you leave? That's a beautiful question from a customer perspective of the essence of the brand, essence of the company, essence of the business. But the same could be shared and asked for the employee experience too. Like at the end of the day, like how do people go back to home and what is the energy that they carry with them? Because again, like we are in our personal spaces too, like most of the time you're just trying to really recover from the business experience because we are not doing business in a loving context, and that's really impacting our personal lives, our families, and most of the time our children and future generations as well. So to me, that's also another very important angle for the collective healing of humanity, health of humanity. Health businesses is number one important thing because it's impacting how the father, mother, like fighting 8 hours in a political setting and going back to home and on being so drowned that they don't have enough time, maybe only an hour quality time with bringing up the best in the future generations. To me, it's broader than only this lovey-dovey concept. It's really bringing health at different levels of society and also bringing the right healthy essence to the culture, to the employees, so that they can also hopefully bring that essence back to their homes and they can give that essence back to future generations too, which is a very important concept that I received the invitation after your contemplation. It's not only about that transactional interaction that this headset gave to me. It's about what is the essence of this, that freedom that I receive from that. And like, can you give that essence in your culture, in your personal employee experience as well? And then can you use it as a way to inspire future generations and hold the space for future generations to breathe a little bit more too? I know maybe this is too visionary, but I definitely see the potential.
Not for me. It's not, and it's a very clear vision, and it's there's something about recognizing that as a business leader or a business owner, the people that either work for you or buy from you are not your right. Like it's a privilege to serve them. So I say this about leadership overall. Like leadership is not it should not, leadership over people should not be seen as a reward. It should be seen as a privilege and honor because you are in a position to actually influence how people think about themselves. For whatever reason, we're wired to look up to someone. And if they say good morning, sometimes we're like, okay, it's going to be a good day. If they ignore us, we feel, what did I do? It's a very weighty and consequential thing, this topic of leadership. I think the same thing applies to business leadership or business ownership. You have a lot of people's lives, whether you are the CEO of a company and it's your employees, or you're the CEO of a company and it's your customers, right? You have a lot of people's lives that you can't actually influence. And I think it starts with business leaders seeing that as a privilege as opposed to a right.
Yes.
Seeing market share as a privilege, like, wow, more people are trusting me with their time and with their life, right? And when I say their life, it's either their time as an employee or it's their dollars as a customer, right?
Yes.
More people are trusting me. It's if we see it that way, I think we would really want to honor them and their decision
Yes.
to give us part of their life.
Yes.
Truly. And what is life? It's time. It's resources, right? If it's money, it's the time that they use to generate that money, right?
Yes.
And so you would really think it's a mindset shift. But the vision that you painted, Doric, it's a very powerful one, and it's not. My hope is that it doesn't sound to people too stretched, too far fetched, because it's a shift. It's just a shift in how we see. This is not one of the things I say, this is not about spending billions of dollars. No, this is about a shift in your perspective, and let the things you're doing drive from that shift in
Yes.
perspective. So definitely it's not too visionary.
Thank you for giving me more courage. And you highlighted that perspective a couple of times, and I think it's really important to bring it back to the conversation. What I liked about your newsletter is that framing that you repeated multiple times about what love really means for you. And I would like to use it for grounding our conversation. And I would like to invite you to tell a little bit more about where the inspiration is coming from this, because I think you made it very loud and clear that love is not a feeling. It's not a soft feeling at all. Love is the outcome of the perspective, posture, and practice that prioritizes the true needs and betterment of another. When I read this, what is really very loud and clear is that perspective piece. It's a way of seeing life. It's a level of consciousness that really enables you to connect the pieces for the betterment of all. At least that's my perception. It's not a feeling at all. It's a way of seeing the world. Would you like to articulate a little bit more about where this definition is coming from, and how you see some of the examples of this being incorporated in the world?
For sure. I've described love as you just said. I've described it as the perspective, the posture, and then the practice. So the action comes. And I think the perspective is first and foremost because we can't truly love anyone or anything that we don't see as important or worthy, right? And so there's a difference between love and pity. So sometimes we can see people and feel sympathy. That's a very different thing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
sympathy or pity really does elevate us above the other person. It's like, oh, sorry that happened to you. But to
Mm-hmm.
love someone, it really is an abandonment. I believe it's an abandonment of self, and really with an intention to honor someone above. And so the reason I always start with the perspective is because if in the context of business, do we, and you've said some of this already, like, do we see our employees as a means to an end, or are they the end in itself? Are our team members the tools that we use to get somewhere? Or is our goal their own evolution as people? And then, well, how do you get to that evolution? Well, the work is a means to the end.
Yes.
Is the customer, hey, the customer is the source of my new car, and so I'm just going to think about them in that way? Or are they individual human beings who are trusting us with their time, their money, sometimes if it's a hospital, their children? How do we see people? And I think the same regard we give to people we care about in our personal lives, our mom, our nephew, our brother, our kids, we
Yes.
see them as whole people. We
Yes.
see them as in fact, sometimes we see ourselves more, right? So there's this notion that we don't give others the grace we give ourselves. So we see ourselves as more complex and, more interesting. And when we do something wrong, we know why, because, but then someone else does the exact same thing, or like that. See that person. Let me tell you. I'll tell on myself. I've told this story before. When I lived in Jersey, um, there was a shuttle that took us from our apartment building to the train station. And so many times, I'd be running to catch the shuttle. I didn't want to miss it because I didn't have to take the train and the New York City subway, etc. So I would be running to get the shuttle. And in my mind, I'm like, I know I'm running to catch the shuttle. It's all in my mind, but it's because I've been working so much. I woke up very early. So you have all these reasons. And so when I be like, hey, please keep the shuttle. And I get on the shuttle, I'm like, thank you. And then I would see other people running for the shuttle next day, and I'd be like, "You're so late. You can't keep us waiting. We're late. You gotta be on time, right?" So we give
Yeah.
ourselves so much space, and we have all this space for ourselves. But with others, it's very one dimensional.
Yeah.
How much more with our team members, with our employees? So we don't see them. We don't give people the full. So it's the perception, the perspective of people first, and then with that perspective comes the posture, which is then you shift how you treat them, right? You shift
Yes.
even how you see them and the value, and then the actions come from that. And so that's why I talk about it not being the emotion. Of course, comes with that sometimes, but not all the time. It's not the feeling alone. Because sometimes we think if there's no feeling of love, then it's impossible to love someone, and that's not true, right? We have friends that we love. We don't always like them. We have kids or nephews, nieces, that we siblings. Oh my goodness, is the easiest one that we love, but we don't always like them, And so I really do think it starts with, do I see Dork as a whole, complex, worthy human being, or do I see her as, oh, she's also doing love as a KPI? So no, not as, before I even engage you as a partner in thought, I need to engage you as a person,
Yes.
wonderfully made, complex
Yes.
and beautifully made, a person with a unique purpose, a person with a journey that's unique to mine. I need to honor the fullness. Really, I need to honor God in you, is the truth. I need to first start there. And
Yes.
then anything else follows. If I only see you as a transactional, oh, well, maybe through this, no, I can't love you. So it must start with our perspective. And it's impossible to truly love someone or honor them if we don't see them, if we don't see God in them. They were made for something that you will never know. And that is the purpose of their life. And that's where it starts for me.
Wow, Tibe, thank you.
Hmm.
You spoke from your heart, and I was able to really feel it so deeply that I had even tears in my eyes. And
Hmm.
there are, I think, two reflections, two
Hmm.
words that resonated very deeply for me. The first one was really that honoring all of our existence, all of the humanity that we carry within us. And a particular definition of honor that I deeply carry with me is exactly how you describe it. It's literally holding the person to the highest standard that you know they can be, although they might not be showing it through their actions. That is the true definition of honor, like holding that love as if they are that God and seeing the God in them and helping them to connect to that love energy by holding the space for them to catch up. That's a true definition of honor. That's a true definition of human dignity that we know is in us. And love to me is that bridge that helps us to bring that vision into reality. And if you can really feel it in your heart and hold that loving space for other human being to feel it too, that's the most beautiful, humane invitation for honoring each other. And the second thing is very much related to, once again, this definition, but you mentioned sympathy. And I was literally, before our contemplation, I was recording another contemplation about sympathy and empathy and how empathy is actually linked to love. Sympathy, from a definition perspective, is literally feeling with someone. So, like you said, like you're there, I'm here, you're feeling something. I see you, but I am with you. Empathy, from an root perspective, it literally means inside the feeling. It's not you as a separate person. I am feeling inside you. And to be able to really put yourself in the shoes of another human being, Sometimes you just need to put your own ego, your personal story, your personal belief systems to the side and just be fully present there and listen so deeply that you can, to your point, like connect to that person's story, like experiences. Like I know this is coming back to the linkage of the perspective too. Like we each have different perspectives because as human beings, we go through different experiences in life. No one in my life have gone through the similar experiences that I've gone through. Same with you too. Look, you are beautifully unique in your human ways, and the only way that I can really understand you, empathize with you, is literally stopping my own belief system, stopping my own stories for a second, putting my ego to the side and listening to your life experiences, to your belief systems, and literally feeling what it would feel like to be in your shoes. And for a moment, literally extending my definition of identity broader so I can see the world through your eyes, through your expansion. And sometimes I also think the story that you shared is very true about our human nature. From an intellectual level, we can see things so well. But if the same thing happens to us, like we are so stuck with our identity that we are so judgmental. But we are in each other. We are each other. Like we sometimes say, like, I would never do that. Like, how come you can say that without really knowing the storyline of that person? Did you ever listen? And again, there are different levels of listening too. It's not only hearing, it's listening with an open heart, with an open mind, knowing that you were raised in a different culture. You have so many different traumas that you have no idea. So what's really important is that empathy piece is another bridge for loving each other, for connecting to each other, relating to each other. And it can only happen if we can really, even for a short period of time, put our own identities on the side and keep an open mind so we can hear each other, we can listen to each other. And to me, going through mind is a nice way of opening our hearts too. Like there are, I think, two different ways. Like from a more feminine approach, like I'm more leaning towards opening my heart through regular practices, through self-love, forgiveness too. But especially in the Western world, especially in the business world, I think another more practical way could be through mind, through literally suspending our judgments. If we can really just listen to each other from an intellectual level as well, once you listen to someone's story, once you understand where their thought patterns and belief systems are coming from, at least that will give some compassion, some openness in your heart that you should be able to understand how it feels like to be in their shoes.
I was just taken away. Sorry, I was taken away by what you were saying. Um, oh, oh, yeah. The ability to suspend, and that's literally why it's taking me so long to get back, right? To suspend your thinking, because the self, the ego is always trying to find ways to bring itself to the topic, to the forefront. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of what we're up against, or in this
Yes.
topic of love is business. You know, ego is, if we had our sort of who are the villains, or what are the villains? This notion of like the self-protective, you know, what if I'm not understood? I need to get my own. I need to make. I need to. I. It's hard to do that and hold true space for other people. There's so much risk. There's risk in love. Love is risky
Yes, of
because
course.
love is like I will I may you know I may not get the focus I mean, but I want to offer someone else that. Um, but if even just this simple, it's not simple, but it's simple act of just suspending judgment for a
Yes.
second and
Yes.
considering all the million things that could have happened for that person to make that decision. And when we think about when that has been extended to us, maybe we made the same mistake over and over again, and someone looks us right in the eye and says, I know you can do it. I'm going to give you another chance. I hope that everyone has had at least one moment where they've really, at least one, if not thousands, right? At least one moment where they've experienced genuinely being seen and
Yes.
loved and honored, especially when it made no logical sense, especially
Yes.
when they didn't think they deserved it at all. You know,
Yes.
there's times when we think I deserved it. You were nice to me because I wore a nice shirt. I deserved it. Right? That's that ego. Like I own it. I deserve it. It's the ultimate. Honestly, I think for me, a lot of my views on love are really driven by my faith because it's
Yes.
the ultimate understanding that all of this is grace. We don't
Yes.
have anything. We think we're in control. We think we earn. We think we deserve, and we think we. But like this, breath can stop. We
Yes.
like this, something that's near and dear to us can be taken away. We really aren't. And so once you live from there, of course, it's easy to extend that to other people. Um, yeah, of course, it's easy to extend that to other people because what is ours? We don't own anything. We're just here. Oh, dork.
This,
Yeah.
no, thank you. This is a true conversation. And to me, the definition of conversation is also, once again, from a terminological definition, it's literally turning together, like looking into each other's mirror and reflecting
Yeah.
what we have seen in each other's mirror. And this has been such a delightful experience always. And when you actually highlighted that we are given this privilege and opportunity, this made me remember another
Mm.
favorite quote of mine that I used multiple times in my life, and one of them was actually in my business school application. So this is actually coming from Tony Robbins, a well-known coach in the life coaching space. He says, "Life is a gift, and it offers us the privilege, opportunity, and responsibility to give something back by becoming something more." It is beautiful. Like we are given this gift. We are given this gift of love. We were nurtured by nature, by our mothers, by other families. And right now, most of us in the business, we have this privilege and responsibility to do something big, impactful, and loveful to give back by literally holding that space in our teams, holding that space in the products that we create, in the designs that we bring into the experiences, in the way that we lead, in the way that we show up for our customers, in the way that we take care of not only the profits but also everything in existence, meaning planet, the air that really gives us this space that enables us to connect to each other. So I think what you highlighted is a beautiful way of grounding ourselves in that gift that we are given as life and what we can do with it. Well, I know we discussed so many things and we are approaching the end of the hour. Are there any particular things that you would like to highlight from our conversation, from your definition of love as a KPI, or what would you like to once again remind
Mm.
or invite others to take away during this conversation? We talked about so many things. Any final words
You
from you
know,
too?
the beautiful thing about doing this work is that it forces me to be love as we're doing it.
Yes.
And even just talking about it, we learn so much. So I just want to say that I am very, very grateful, very, very grateful. In fact, this is a conversation that I needed myself, honestly, because you don't know what's going to come out of you just opening up space and time.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for this forum in the middle of the day. Like I took an hour off work. I said, like, and I'm going, like, you're helping me see so much clearer. And so thank you. Honestly, that is my reflection is I am grateful for the opportunity to have honestly someone at sister in arms on this topic and this space that you've created that we can just talk. I think I remember our conversation. You said we'll just open it up and see what comes
Yes.
out, what we share and what doesn't happen. And it's been such an edifying conversation. And so that is my reflection. My hope is that there's something that anyone who ever listens to this now or 10 years from now can see and can find useful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. As I always say, it takes two to tango, it takes two to dance. And I would like to maybe use this as an invitation for everyone to bring this little playful exploration into your own lives, into your own business in different shape or form. Like what we are doing here is not anything serious. Like we just literally opened the space, brought our hearts, and just before joining the conversation, we just shared an intention saying that, hey, we would like to really bring all of our presence, bring all of the love that we would like to see more in the world into this conversation. And it just unfolded from there. It doesn't have to be something big, it can just literally be that simple intention. And sharing that intention with someone else who would like to see similar values more in the world. And you can do this in your personal space, you can do this with your colleagues, you can bring this to your teams if you're a leader. I think it only takes intention and opening some space for that intention to materialize in life. And there is no small impact. You don't have to be the CEO of a company to create an impact. I think just give that call, like share a love in a different shape or form. And if it feels aligned, like record a session just to feed each other, just to feed each other's soul and grow together with another human being. And to me, that's the beauty of conversations too. Like even in today's podcast world, it's like an interview. Like I'm going to ask you a question, you're going to answer that question. It's similar to that transactional way of doing business. My definition of a conversation is literally turning together. It was such a joy for me to see you, to honor different aspects of you. It was such a playful and delightful experience personally for me. And I am delighted to hear that my love extended to you too, and you were able to feel the same. And if we can touch
Absolutely.
someone else's heart, to me, that's impact. It doesn't have to be millions of people. Here we are. I love what I do. You love the time that we share together. And to me, that's just another reflection of bringing more love into business. So thank you, Tibe. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it and I appreciate you. Thank you, Doris.
Well, if you have any reflections after this conversations, please feel free to reach out to us. Tibe has this beautiful newsletter that she is sharing more of her wisdom. Please follow her newsletter. And I have various channels where I'm also sharing my contemplations. So this video will be also on YouTube, but you can also follow me on LinkedIn and explore other creations as well. Thank you so much, Tibe. Hope to see you in another conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir.